The last 36 hours before my husband passed away. That's what I want to talk about in this video. I'm going to share what death, unplanned gold teeth, yes, I said that, and Lauren Daigle have all to do with each other, all in 36 hours. I know that's a peculiar combo, but take it from me, I know how peculiar it is more than anyone because it was what I lived out, the experiences. But I'd like to give you a little bit of on-ramp before those 36 hours. Basically, before those last 36 hours of my husband's life had started, there was already this, like, what felt like a pending countdown. Things were getting bad. I could tell that his fine motor skills had changed. I had to convince him, unsuccessfully most of the time, to stay or rest until someone could help him. And I think that was what was heartbreaking, is he was never the guy that would need help. He was always the strongest in the room, and he could not understand. Like, it was like his brain could not compute anymore because of the cancer what was going on, and he didn't understand why I needed to help him so much. I was his full-time hospice caregiver. Basically, the nurses would come a few times a week, and then when they weren't there, it was me 24/7. And if I had to run and go get medication or do something, or even just take a shower, my sweethearted teenage son would be nearby and be available to help Dad if needed as well. So it was a really difficult time. It was very difficult. And it was hard because this person I had loved was changing in front of my eyes. And there were symptoms and there were things that were getting worse. And I remember expressing in his second to last nurse visit to the nurse, who was a substitute kind of like visiting nurse. I was like, this has changed. This has gotten worse. I can say I provided some details to try to support my concern. And I think to try to not cause alarm in a good-natured way, I didn't really feel like my concerns were validated. And it was hard. It was heartbreaking because I'm like, something is changing. Something's not right. But because they said this was normal and this is just could, be how it is for a while, I didn't know I had to sound the alarm that these were the last hours. Sadly, my concerns were validated on the last morning that my husband lived by his lead nurse, who was just amazing, but it felt a little too late at that time. So I was just in a really heartbroken spot because I knew something wasn't right, and I was just trying to keep his body functioning and clearing blood clots and keeping his catheter working so he wouldn't go into renal failure on my watch. And that is a horrible thing to have to carry. Let me tell you, I was having to take care of every personal need that he had. If you can imagine it, fill in the blank. I don't need to. If you can't handle that type of information, I won't list it here. For me, I'll just list it. But for all of y'all, that's not your thing. I'm going to withhold it on this video. And probably all the others as well, because I feel like this is a significant, wrap up my journey of the hard video with this moment of sharing this. But basically, things were hard before that 36 hours. That's what I want you to understand. It was hard. It was heartbreaking. There were lots of tears. So our 36-hour mark starts on a Sunday night. My son and his grandpa, my dad, had gone to church, which is great. I would try to just watch church online when I could. And that was kind of my saving grace of sanity, to be honest with you. It made me feel connected to something. And that was the one night they weren't able to air it on YouTube. And I wasn't able to get logged into the alternative way to watch the video because I was just helping my husband so much that night. It was so hard. It was just nerve-wracking and excruciating. And I felt like I was having to drain things out of his body every 15 to 20 minutes just to keep him functioning. And that was something I wouldn't want anyone to have to deal with. So I'm crying. I'm just distraught. And I leave my husband in the room and walk out to the living room and then go cry quietly and then try to go back in and help him. and going back and forth, back and forth. Well, eventually my son and my dad get home from church, and I feel this collision in the atmosphere. Not because someone did something wrong, but because two very opposite things are happening simultaneously. You have the despair of I'm watching my husband deteriorate, and then they come home and tell me this miraculous miracle that happened at church. And I'm like, that doesn't, I'm wanting the miracle to happen on this side. Not that God can't do anything anywhere else, but like, what about here? What about here? So I'm hearing these stories, and I'm hearing all this happen, and I'm trying to make sense of it all. And basically something happened that no one planned for, no one prayed for, can't really explain. I just have to go, it's God. At church that night, there was a guest sharing testimonies of miraculous things that have happened all over the place. Just amazing. And that's really great. We need to be encouraged by the power of testimony. Like, that's amazing. One of the things they shared was, hey, we've seen God give people gold teeth. And sometimes when we talk about it, that miracle can happen in different places when we share that testimony. So my sweet-natured boy looks over at his grandpa. No prayer, no laying on of hands, no crazy church commanding acrobatic random weirdness. Nothing weird. Just, hey, Grandpa, we should check your mouth. And you know what? There were 3 gold teeth that were in his mouth that didn't used to be there. And that's wild, because that's not something my dad asked for. My dad wasn't pushing for that. He was like more so his heart heavy over watching his son-in-law hurting at home, not wanting to have gold teeth. I'll show you a video, a little clip of it. Multiple hundreds of thousands of people have seen it on the internet. And I was honestly hesitant to do this video because people are really, really mean. Like, really mean. I was just heartbroken reading some of the comments. Like, what? You think we're making this up? Like, who are you? Like, how cynical and miserable do you have to be? Like, do you think we asked for this to happen? Like, if you would only realize what we were walking through as a family, which grace to them, they didn't. But like, if you would have known, you would have known my son is basically one of the most genuine, authentic, pure-hearted kids you're ever going to meet. He's not going to make anything up or lie. You would realize my dad is this engineer who is logical, who's constant, he's methodical. He doesn't like to be the center of attention. He's very linear. He doesn't pursue anything wild or crazy. Like, it's just, like, if you would know who these people were in the video, you would understand, like, they didn't seek this out. They didn't ask for it. So, I will play it, and let's see what happens.
3 gold teeth, and it happened right now. Okay, so, he was saying, hey, let's pray for golden teeth. And I was like, hey, Grandpa, let's just check in faith. And he opens his mouth, and he has 3 golden teeth.
He didn't have gold teeth before coming in here. So I don't know him, but this guy's his grandson.
I can testify. I have known my grandpa my entire life. We lived together, and he's never had golden teeth. Never.
There was a season a number of years ago where we brought flashlights on Sunday nights just to check for gold teeth, because there would be so many of those miracles that we just have a flashlight to check out. So we may need to start bringing flashlights again. That's amazing.
I know there's going to be some of you that are like, I didn't even believe that. It's fake or whatever. And I'm like, all I can tell you is it's not. I mean, how do you even fake that? First off, I don't understand that when there's dental records that show at one point things were this way and now they're completely different. It's provable, but that's not what this video is about. It's about what happened in a 36-hour time period and trying to reconcile all the why. Why? So again, I'm seeing all this stuff. Even my daughter's getting texts because she's in ministry school that her friends are saying, wait, I saw this thing with your grandpa and your brother. Like, what's happening? Oh my gosh, she had this thing happen, because they know us too. They know us that, like, hey, we're not trying to make anything happen or ask for anything. But anyways, it still was like this clash of like the heaviness and hard thing is happening at home, but this amazing thing happened at church, and trying to put that to get, it's like trying to smush stuff and I can't trying to reconcile all this. So Sunday night finishes up, and then Monday morning happens. And that's the Monday morning that my husband's lead nurse came and validated everything. She was amazing. She was his main caseworker nurse. She oversaw everything. She was an angel from heaven. And she was like, yeah, we need to get him to the hospital. So she orchestrated everything. Again, I'm replaying everything that's happening the night before in the back of my head, and then faced with this, my husband's going to the hospital. My husband's going to the hospital. And it's this tension. I don't know how to explain it. I see my husband carried out of the house by paramedics and EMTs, basically wrapped up in a sheet just so they can carry him outside. And I'm seeing how frail he is, and it just breaks my heart because he's suffering so bad. And he gets carried to the paramedics in there, and I say, hey, can I go with them? And they're like, no, we don't have enough room. This is a smaller ambulance. You need to drive in a separate car. And I'm like, okay, maybe that's good. I don't know how I feel right now. But they're like, okay, let us get him situated, and then you can follow us in a little bit. I'm like, okay. So I get in the car, and before I hit the ignition, I'm praying to God. I'm crying out in tears because I don't understand what is happening. Like, amazing things and horrible things all in the same time period. What the heck is going on, God? Why won't you rescue your son? He is suffering. Please, like, we're crying out for mercy, like, because we've been going, God, will you heal him here on earth or in heaven? But this in between of suffering is horrific. Will you please rescue your son that loves you? He served you for years. He told you people about Jesus for you, God. What? Why can't something give? Why can't you rescue him? Would you please rescue him? And I turn on the car, and the radio's on, which is not my default. Normally I have an app that I have a playlist playing through. And the song on the radio specifically is Rescue by Lauren Daigle. And the words that are coming on of that portion of the song is, I hear your SOS. I will send out an army to find you. In the middle of the darkest night, it's true, I will rescue you. And in that moment, I cried, and I feel like I could just almost feel like I could hear God's voice surrounding me. And I heard him say, I will rescue him. And I cried some more. Understandable, probably. But from that conversation, from that moment of hearing that prayer, he was gone in 14 hours. He passed away in a room overlooking the prayer chapel at the hospital. And even in the last time frame before he passed, my sister-in-law was woken up with this urgency to pray. She didn't, exactly know all the details, but she was interceding for him. And it was like God in his goodness used someone even out of state to be interceding for his last moments. And I'm sure his last moments were great because when my last conversation was, was falling asleep. He was so exhausted. And I kissed him on the forehead, and I asked the Lord to surround him with angels in that moment. So because he had asked the Lord if he could pass away in his sleep if he wasn't going to heal him, which he did honor that. And even in those moments, someone was praying for him, which is just so incredible. And I knew my husband had gone through so much that last day at the hospital. He had had testing he wasn't supposed to. While that was extremely hard on him, I feel like in God's grace, God allowed it for us because we were able to understand how bad things were. When you can read the CTs, you can read the blood reports, and you go, okay, he's better off where he is now. And you can even understand why he wasn't the same, because we were able to clearly read from the CT reports that the cancer had spread to his brain. And, that does affect someone's personality. And it helped us release and go, well, God, it's better that he's with you than suffering any longer here on earth. And that was your mercy to take him home. But sometimes it feels like a dangerous prayer to pray, hey, will you heal him here or in heaven? And it is a huge release. Not that we ever have control to begin with a lot, but it was a huge release of going, God, we trust you for what's best. But again, what does this all have to do with gold teeth? Because we've got my husband going downhill, passing, dad, grandpa getting gold teeth, all within 36 hours of each other. And I feel like God was just trying to remind us of a few things by giving my dad the gold teeth. And I even had a dear family friend, remind me recently that a pastor we had had years ago, he had actually had this same thing happen to him. He had gotten gold teeth in a supernatural experience. So, it happens. It's crazy, but it happens. But I know there's always multiple reasons to why God does something. But I'm going to tell you, I think the two reasons why I think he allowed it to happen with my dad. Which first one was, to me, teeth make you think of your mouth and what you have to offer out of your mouth. I mean, our words are so powerful. Our words can be very, very, very valuable if used correctly. And the funny thing is, my dad's more of a quiet guy. He doesn't necessarily say a lot. He's an engineer, very logical. You don't just blabber for the sake of blabbering. He's very intentional, purposeful, even linear, scientific minded. So when he says something, you pay attention. Like when he gives his opinion, you pay attention. And that was something my husband John had picked up on him. He would be like, hey, anytime my father-in-law actually says something, you all should pay attention. And I think I remember him telling like our church staff that, because my husband was a pastor. And he would tell our church staff like, hey, when he finally says something, you should pay attention, because whatever comes out of his mouth is important and valuable. And I think my dad getting those gold teeth was just a beautiful reminder of what my husband John would say about him and how important my dad's words are and were to those around him. And especially like what he sows and pours in and speaks over my life and my kids' lives in my husband's absence, I think is really important. Especially my kids. And I think the other reason that it happened was like sometimes we need to remember that God's still there and God can still move and do things. Even in a season of heartbreak, God is still there. I don't have all the answers of why this happened and why this didn't happen. My husband used to have a phrase that he would say, he goes, that's above my pay grade. And there are things I can have insights on, even thoughts, but I may never have the answer while I'm on earth of why this miracle happened and this one didn't. And I have to be okay with that and go, God, it's in your hands. But I knew us having that random thing, that random miracle happen with my dad at the same time my husband passed, had to be significant, because we had to remember God still moves and that he's still surrounding us and he's still moving and that he's still there. Sometimes it feels very tempting to go, God, you left, you're not here, you didn't move over here, so I'm just going to harden my heart towards you. And that's not the right thing. I've had to surrender the why. It has felt like my greatest sacrifice of worship in this season. But I know I can't quit on God. He didn't quit on me. And we live in an imperfect world. And I have to keep looking for good and looking for him moving around me, even if he didn't move in a way I had expected. Even if it feels like the enemy got one on. I've got to get more wins than the enemy at this point. That's kind of how I view it. And I refuse to change my definition of God's goodness just because of a circumstance. I can't compromise my viewpoint of God's goodness because, yeah, this was hard. It felt like Satan got one on us, but I feel because of what was stolen, I feel even more of a justice drive to get more hearts affected by God's love and get them into heaven than ever before. Because I just feel this, what happened here wasn't right. So I want to use that and harness that towards, I want to get more people in heaven's doors. And I'm not going to be perfect at it. I'm not going to be, but I'm that's my heart. That's my heart. And I don't want to quit on God. I don't want to quit on the things that I even sat and occasionally co-taught with my husband on a Sunday morning, teaching about God and his goodness and his character. I can't compromise on that. And even if that meant I need to have some gold teeth that drop into our life to be reminded of God's goodness, then so be it. Who am I to say that God can't move in a certain way? It didn't violate his character. It wasn't unethical. It didn't compromise any morals. It doesn't go against his word. So who am I to say, hey, God, you can't move like this? You know what, God, you can move whatever way you want, as long as it brings you glory. And I can see your hand in this. And I thank you, God, for moving and taking care of us and watching out. You may go, okay, Tamara, you got all this stuff happened and John went to heaven, but what about y'all? Well, did you get rescued? Like the song? And I have to say yes. John got rescued to heaven. We were rescued and given mercy from having to watch him suffer and feeling helpless to help him. We were rescued out of the heaviness that was on us, that we had to battle through every day. And we were sustained and cared for through it all. And I can honestly tell you, after walking through the hardest thing in my life, I feel like I can feel God's presence even more and know that he's real. And you would think that it might be the opposite, that I could just harden my heart so I didn't feel him around me. But I can't do that. I refuse to do that. If anything, I feel God lightening the load. I feel like I can say this video and not cry the whole way through it because I can take a breath now and I feel lighter because of God walking this out and being very, very real. I feel permission to dream and leave ashes in the past. I refuse to let what feels like one defeat rob me of seeing more miracles for others, or heck, even for ourselves. I don't want to be robbed of that. I don't want anything to be robbed anymore. I don't want anything stolen from us anymore. I just want it to stop in Jesus' name. And most importantly, I want people to experience the beauty of heaven that my late husband and many people we love are experiencing now, including like his parents and we've had friends, and there's so many wonderful people that we'll get to meet someday up there. So I appreciate y'all going on this journey with me. This is an imperfect journey, an imperfect video, but I hope that if you watch this, that you can come away going, God's still real, and God still moves, and God still helps us through difficult times, and he still speaks. He does. So sometimes we have to look a little bit and turn some stuff down so we can hear better. But he's talking, he's there. So go after him, go find him. He's probably a lot closer than you think he is. Y'all have a great day.